What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video we're going to be previewing the Major 4 Week 2 qualifier matches. Tons of stuff to talk about in this video. We have some roster mania going on. We have some drama behind the scenes between some of the players and teams. We have seen the debut of Expo Control, so we'll talk about that. Talk about my Breaking Point fantasy team and an update on that, as well as my predictions for the matches this weekend. Quickly before we get into this video, just wanted to say thank you for all the support on the past few videos. If you guys are enjoying this type of content on the CDL, make sure to drop a like or let me know down in the comments down below what you guys enjoyed about the video or what I can switch up moving forward to make it a better experience for you. So to start things off, we're going to start with roster mania. Two big moves were made by two different teams in the league. The first being Vivid is going to be benched in favor of Kremp. Now Kremp has been on the Boston Academy team for 2 years now. Played really well last year and has had a fantastic year so far in Challengers scene, playing alongside the likes of Doug Sensor Martin, as well as Beans, who got called up and is now on the Boston main team as well. Also, another follow-up note, sort of aligned with this move, Vivid will not be playing in Challengers. Hopefully somebody will make the move. Unfortunately, he is a restricted free agent, so he's still under contract with Boston. He would have to be bought out to be able to move to another team, and just not really sure if that's going to happen. It's a little bit late in the season to be making pretty expensive moves like this, and for the most part, I believe rosters are somewhat finalized here at this point. Outside of a few minor moves, I think a lot of the top teams that could potentially make a move like this or might feel the pressure to make a move like this are already solidified. The other move is that Johnny is going to be joining the Boston Challengers team. Obviously, there is some well-known drama between him and Doug, so we'll see how that plays out. He's had a pretty good year in Challengers as well, so I assume that they've been able to squash the beef between the two, all of the drama with doing monitor cam, stuff like that, so good for them. Really looking forward to Kremp having an opportunity in the league. Again, he's played very well. Not sure if this is the right decision. Vivid has played pretty well for this team, and sort of last major cycle, we saw their team get adjusted to having Beans in the roster, so we'll see how this works out, and we'll talk a little bit about Kremp later on. The other move was that Vikul will be joining the Florida Mutineers starting roster for Colt Havoc. Now, I'll bring up the graphic here on screen. It talked about, the Mutineers tweeted saying, due to personal reasons, Colt Havoc will be taking a step back from the starting roster, and they'll be moving him to a substitute position. Now, there's no sort of official notification from the Mutineers or the league or anybody like that in terms of who he will be replacing. However, on Tommy Zuma's stream as well as Methods, while they were streaming, they did announce that they heard information that Vikul will be rejoining the team. Again, he was on the team at the beginning of the year, or he came up sort of, from Challengers. He's been a Challenger player for a while, played pretty well for the team, and ultimately was brought back out of the roster and onto the bench. So he'll be joining the team again. Just to follow up one more time, again, nothing official on this move, but it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, he was their substitute on the bench, so he's already under contract, and hopefully everything is all right with Colt. He was playing pretty well, but you never want to see somebody leave the league for personal reasons, and obviously shout outs and prayers to him. Another topic to talk about as well, just coming out a little frustratingly right when I finished my video, so now adding this back into the original part, is the CDL announcing that starting this Friday, watch parties will be live on both YouTube and Twitch. Obviously, this has been the talk of the town since the start of the year. Obviously, seeing some incredible numbers, over on Twitch. Obviously, some of that may come from people having multiple tabs open for watch parties and other things like that. I'm very interested to see the numbers that YouTube will bring in, simultaneously during Twitch. Just sort of see what the feasibility might be with running both. I imagine with it being live on both that it's more because they don't have an exclusive deal with either of them. I know that the league has been trying to, in some way, secure a deal with YouTube Gaming just to get some money out of the deal. Ultimately, this is just the battle of, do they want to see short-term profit or do they want to see long-term gain in the overall esport overall? So we'll see how this plays out. I'm interested to see what sort of numbers, again, we'll see from YouTube. Obviously, there will be all those sort of watch parties on Twitch as well as the mainstream as well. The chat feature is better on Twitch. The exploration and sort of promotion of the live is much better on Twitch. So we'll see what happens. Let me know down in the comments down below what you guys think. We'll sort of come about this. We'll see if it happens and sticks around for the entire season. The next thing I want to talk about is Expo Control. We saw it twice this weekend. We saw Optic absolutely smoke London on it. And then we saw Boston take their one map off of Las Vegas Legion, 3-1 on it. Pretty interesting to see how it played. A lot of people had concerns about the spawn traps, things like that. Don't really think that we'll see too many issues like that. If you're getting put in a spawn trap, in the pros, you most likely deserve it. Unlike something like Fortress, where it happens every single round, seemingly getting trapped on offense. So I like the way that it played out. I think that we'll definitely see more of it as we move on with the CDL season. And it also adds another wrinkle because some teams have been practicing it a lot and getting pretty good at it. So just adds another wrinkle into the vetoes. We've seen that with Optic as well. They really like this map. They're also really good at Hotel. So it'll be interesting to see what teams are going to do in terms of combating and banning certain maps moving forward. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it this upcoming weekend. And the following weekends, we saw a lot of El Silo Control, which not a ton of teams were playing. A lot of people were just playing Hotel, mainly the better teams. And some of the worst teams were taking that 50-50 square up on Fortress. So we'll see how the roster or the map pool continues to sort of expand for certain teams with this addition. The next thing that I want to talk about here is some drama, talking about the Minnesota home series that they hosted last weekend. Now, this is definitely great in terms of an activation for the local fans, and definitely an opportunity to help grow the brand of Call of Duty esports overall, I would say, and give people an opportunity to get involved and watch their teams if there isn't a home major there like there is in Minnesota this year. Now, they'll have another one later in the year, so interested to see what they will do with that and what changes they may make. But there were certainly some people that were upset with sort of how it was formatted and ultimately how everything played out. So I'll pull up a couple of tweets here from Clayster. Obviously, Las Vegas Legion and Rocker are the 8 and 9 seeds, and they're battling it out for the final spot in champs come, let's say, May. Not sure exactly when, maybe June. Details to come on that. But Clayster talking a little bit about, reading the tweet, he said, I find it a little fugazi how we're chasing Rocker in terms of the point standings, and they get to play 2 matches in one day in front of a home crowd on LAN. Where is the integrity? So definitely pretty interesting. He has a great point. A lot of times teams will only play online for 1 match, much less 2. They're also getting to play on LAN, so not as much online cheese in terms of timings, in terms of connection, things like that. So certainly citing that there's certainly some innate, advantages in this situation for a team like Rocker, getting to play twice in front of their home crowd. The other teams have to travel to get out there. This series was in Wisconsin, so not super close for them either. But at the end of the day, definitely some advantages, inside of this format. And then going to his second tweet as well. Imagine being LAG, having to play Rocker after they've already played an entire series an hour before. Please tell me how this is fair to them. I'd be livid if I had to play them second. So, Clayster definitely talking facts here with his tweets. Not too much I'm sure that they're going to be able to do in terms of fixing this in the future. Obviously, the teams will have to put up this money to put on these events. So, not every team will have that same sort of access in terms of hosting these events. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a really important step, and definitely, hats off to Rocker for organizing this type of event. And again, I'm excited to see what they'll do next year, or later this year rather, with their second home series event that they're doing. But in terms of practicality, this is sort of the only way that I see it working out, unless there's more teams that sort of come out to play. Not sure how much better that it could get, but I certainly understand the frustrations here from Clay. The next thing we'll talk about is two interesting graphics talking about Nameless and Study bringing their player pyramids. Essentially, I believe it's the top 15 players that they have in this game. So I'll pull up one at a time, talking about Nameless, Yeselium at the top, BZ and Pred in the next tier. I think that this kind of makes a little bit of sense. Some people were questioning a little bit of having Temp here on this pyramid. A lot of people think that Hook might not be deserving of this spot as well. But overall, Donnie Temp has great numbers on LAN, and Hook's had some great impact plays, despite the numbers not being there for him in every series. Obviously, you have Dashy and Shotzi there in the third tier. Those guys are going to fill up the stat categories pretty good. So you're not always going to be frying all the time. So definitely like this pyramid. I would say it makes definitely some sense. Obviously, there's a lot of players that you can switch into here as well. But thought overall it was a pretty well-rounded pyramid. So now switching over to Studies. Pretty interesting. He actually has Hydra at the top of his, who again puts up incredible numbers of BZ and Pred. Pretty similar as well. Yeselium in the third tier. Dashy dropped down to the fourth. So, this one definitely makes sense as well. Interesting seeing Afro here, as he's definitely cooled off since his Major 2 run. And Asim as well. Obviously, he has cooled off a little bit for the London team as well. Nero at the bottom tier can definitely make a lot of sense. He has had a much more consistent season than he had in Vanguard. And I think his production overall has been pretty good as well. Not sure if I like him over Awakening, particularly, which is somebody who was a notable leave out here on Studies Pyramid. But again, it's all a matter of opinion. And, nobody's opinion is wrong unless it's egregiously wrong. So, interested to see what you guys have to say about that in the comments down below. Quickly, before we get to predictions, I'll talk to you guys about my Breaking Point fantasy team. So, again, I have Celium, Draza, Kremp, and Temp. So, notable change from last time, we had Vivid for $5. So, the way that Breaking Point does it is that they just substitute the player in that spot. So, since Kremp replaced Vivid, he will replace Vivid on my team as well. Still for just $5, I think that's a great opportunity sort of for my team. I think Kremp definitely could show up, have a great honeymoon period here this weekend, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the matches, but I think it's definitely an opportunity to get some nice cheap points there. Draza had an incredible weekend for LAT, played really well. And I have Celium as my captain, so they have 2 matches this upcoming weekend, so hopefully they will be ready to fry. So moving on to the predictions, we're just going to fly through these pretty quickly just to keep this video on the shorter end. On Friday, the first thing that we'll talk about is that there will be bounty matches, so these will be 10K matches between the two teams, sort of an incentive throughout the season to add more money into the player pool and give the players an opportunity to earn more money, which I think is a nice wrinkle. These are the first bounty matches that we've seen. I think it might be the only, I kind of forget, but there is one for each team in terms of a matchup. So we'll go through these here with you guys. So the first matchup we have on Friday is Boston versus London in a bounty match. I'll take Boston in a 3-0 fashion. I think they have a good honeymoon period with Kremp. I think that London's roster is just sort of broken. So moving to the second matchup, we have Florida taking on the Seattle Surge. I have Seattle in a 3-0. Obviously a difficult situation with Colt Havoc, but I just don't really see the slaying power being increased on this roster. Something they'll struggle with in terms of Seattle. And I think that this hurts their S&D, which Seattle's looked better, so I like this in a sweep. And to wrap out the day, we have NYSL taking on the Minnesota Rocker. As well, this is a bounty match, so all three on Friday are going to be up for $10K. I have New York taking this one 3-1. I think the Minnesota honeymoon is a little bit over. I think New York has a strong bounce back from their poor Major 3 performance, and they get rolling here as well through Major 4. Moving on to Saturday, the first matchup, we have London versus the Vegas Legion. I'll give this one to Legion 3-1. I like to change or bring on Standy, and I think that they're just going to overmatch London. The second matchup, we have LAG taking on LAT. I'll give this one to the Thieves in a 3-0 fashion. I think that the Gorillas just might be sort of out of steam at this point in the season, and I think that LAT is going to start rounding out into form and ultimately get into that potential championship form that they sort of hit last year towards the end of the season. For the third matchup on Saturday, we have NYSL taking on Optic Texas. You guys know where I'm going with this one. I'll give this one to Optic in a 3-1. I think they keep rolling. They've been playing really well as a team, and I'm just going to continue to ride the wave. I think that their momentum will continue after a really hot Major 2 run, or Major 3 run, rather. And to round out Saturday, we have a bounty match between the Atlanta FaZe and Toronto Ultra. I'll give this one to the Ultra 3-1. I think that Toronto continues to dominate the respawns. They did take a search and destroy off of FaZe in Major 3 to ultimately knock them out. I think they'll rebound and they will take the search and destroy, but Toronto just looks really strong in the respawns. Control might be up in the air. Atlanta could win that as well, so maybe it may not be the search that they end up winning, but I think they rebound in search, and I think Toronto takes it 3-1. Finally, on Sunday, for the first match, we have a bounty match between the Vegas Legion and LAG. I'll give this one to Vegas in a 3-2 fashion. I think this might be a weird series. I think that, we may end up seeing Embassy Hardpoint come in, which is a good map for LAG, and things might just get weird. We haven't seen Vegas really face too much adversity. They had 2 good wins last weekend, so I'll give this one to Vegas in a 3-2, but things might get a little weird with them clutching up in S&D. The second matchup, we have Toronto taking on Florida. I'll give this one to Toronto in a 3-0. Not too much to talk about. I think Florida's just overmatched here. And to round out our weekend, we have a banger of a bounty match. We have LAT going up against Optic Texas. And again, you guys know where I'm leaning. I'll give this one to Optic in a 3-2. I think this is just going to be another textbook banger of a series between Optic Texas and LAT. And I think it would be a great way to round out the weekend. Both teams forming out really well. LAT played really well in their 2 matches last weekend, and last weekend. Guess I'm not gonna trip myself up. But I think both teams have played really well. Obviously, Optic only had 1 match last weekend. They beat down London pretty handily. I don't think that we're going to see Fortress Hardpoint maybe for the rest of the year for Optic Texas. They've just been dominant on that map. But I'll give it to them in a 3-2 and give them a 2-0 weekend. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments down below what you guys think of any of the topics we discussed today, what you guys think of Expo Control overall now that we've seen it a little bit, and it's been in the ranked play map pool for a little while here. And also let me know what you guys think of my predictions down in the comments. But for now, that's going to do it for this video, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.